Hey everybody, how you doing? It is Chase Oliver here from my home studio here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am doing a live stream tonight because, well, now we're at 101 days, but I wanted to really go over the first 100 days of the second Trump administration. So, if you are watching this, please make sure you're liking this on whichever platform you're watching. Share it out, repost, retweet. Make sure you're sharing out the YouTube live stream wherever you're getting this from. Make sure you're letting other people know that they can watch this and enjoy it. And good evening to everybody who is already out there watching. I see our viewer count is going up. That's awesome. So first off, I want to start off by saying sorry I haven't been doing a lot of live streams lately. That's going to be changing now. I've had a little bit of a tech upgrade, so I should be able to do more of these live streams on a more consistent basis. But let's not beat around the bush for too long. If you want to follow me on any platform, you can search at Chase for Liberty, not just on YouTube, not just on Facebook or X, but we're also on Instagram and TikTok. We'll be doing more TikTok live streams upcoming as well. But Donald Trump, 100 days. What do you think about it? Thanks. I see some folks saying hello, hello, hello to everybody. Glad to see, with Rand Paul finding a spine again, thoughts on potential impeachment. Well, we'll just go ahead and start off this question right here, and then we'll get more into the 100 days. My answer to that is doesn't matter what Rand Paul thinks, because you need to have Republicans in the House to bring up articles of impeachment. Rand Paul would only be the part of the trial phase, and so you won't even get to that, or Rand Paul having a say on impeachment, unless the House Republicans decide to join the Democrats. And I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So I don't think impeachment is on the table anytime soon, unless the midterms change that, possibly. But Donald Trump's first 100 days, where should we start? Should we start on domestic policy, foreign policy? I don't know. Let's start with the domestic stuff. Actually, let's just start at the beginning. I will say there are some good things that I think Donald Trump has done. Spoiler alert: there's a lot of bad things, a lot of terrible things. But let's get the good things out of the way. One, he freed Ross Ulbricht. That's a good thing. One person, Ross Ulbricht, is free from prison. He's a nice guy. His mother is a wonderful human being. I'm glad she got to see her son come home. That's a good thing. So I'm happy Ross Ulbricht was pardoned. I'm not happy that basically the next Ross Ulbricht might get life in prison or the death penalty based on what Donald Trump's Department of Justice has put out there. So that is a good thing. Ross Ulbricht is free. It is a bad thing that the Department of Justice doesn't think that the future Ross Ulbrichts of the world shouldn't even be charged to begin with. And so there we go. That's the first thing out of the way. We can talk about, I do support the no CBDC executive order. I think that's a good thing. I oppose CBDCs completely, and I think that's a good thing. I don't know if that was a Donald Trump policy or just something that was whispered into his ear, but I'm glad that that we saw that executive order. So there's a couple of good things. I appreciate the idea of a Department of Government Efficiency, even if this current iteration of the Department of Government Efficiency is anything but efficient, or really well at what they're doing. So while I support the idea of what Doge would be, I don't think they've done a very good job. In fact, they have to recognize first and foremost that spending goes through Congress. And what they should be doing is going line by line through the budget to present budget line items for Republicans in Congress that they can then go to their constituents and defend why it's being eliminated in the next budget. That's the proper process for doing this, while working with your own party who's in control of Congress, while obeying, the constitutional, controls of the purse that the Congress enjoys. Like, I think these are, that would be a much better way for them to have done this than this kind of rough shot. Let's send an email to every government employee and, firing whole departments without even knowing what they're doing. And in fact, doing so in a way that makes it very, very politically unpopular to do. It's already unpopular to take things away from people. And that's what people feel like a lot of times government does. And now you have to be smart enough to be able to educate people why government shouldn't be doing X, Y, or Z, why it would be better done in the private marketplace, why there's not a role for government to do this, and then explain why you are cutting it out of the budget and why you're cutting it out of the government. That would be how you really should be running a Department of Government Efficiency. And let's be real. If Trump was interested in Department of Government Efficiency, he wouldn't have Elon Musk running it. He would have a libertarian running it. You could have someone like my running mate, Mike Tremont, who worked in the Office of Management and Budget. He could go and do a much better job of Doge. I know I could do a better job of identifying bad things and trying to work with Congress to get them eliminated through, the hard work of inter-party diplomacy and legislation. Trump just doesn't seem interested in that. He just seems like a bull in a china shop. And that's where I get to really some of the bad things that Donald Trump has done domestically. I was asked when I was running for president, what's a one word to describe what your potential opponents, what their term would be like if they were elected? Now, I'll just go ahead and tell you, for Kamala Harris, I said condescending. I said Kamala Harris, if she was elected president, we would be condescended and talked down to as if we were children by our president. She would basically try to make every decision for us. I find her governing style, in addition to the big government stuff, just herself to be quite condescending. And so that was my answer for Kamala Harris. For Donald Trump, I answered uncertainty. And boy, after 100 days, did I not hit the nail on the head? Because of his tariff policy, where the tariffs are on one day, the tariffs are off another day, the tariff rate is going to be this, the tariff rate is going to be that. Hey, I've already worked 200 trade deals, but then, his own government says, well, we have sketches of trade deals. It'll all be good in the future. Even in his most recent interview on ABC, he was told, hey, tourism is going down because of the way you've been like combative to other nations. He says, no, it's not. Tourism's going to be great in 6 months. He's completely wrong on all of this stuff. And what it's doing is it's creating uncertainty in the marketplace. And that is going to have, prices going up. That's what you're going to see from that on everything you buy that has imported components or that's made somewhere else. What you're going to see is costs going up, even if the tariffs aren't implemented right now, because there's so much uncertainty about when they will be implemented and at what level. Firms are just going to start building into their prices the cushion for when tariffs eventually do come. And so even without the tariffs, without collecting any revenue at all, we're going to see prices increase because companies are uncertain about what's happening. And they're going to meet their bottom line, whether there's a tariff that hits tomorrow or not. And so that is the problem when you have just uncertainty in your trade policy, when you do this roughshod bull in the China shop kind of tariff policy. Now, I'm against tariffs altogether. I'm a true free trader. But if you're going to implement them, you have to do it more intelligently than this. This is the most unintelligent way to undergo trade policy that I've ever seen in my lifetime. It's just complete incompetency out of the Trump White House with regards to trade. Now, I debated Art Laffer last year at the Soho Forum. You can check that out on YouTube, where I debated Art Laffer, an economist and a Trump supporter, on who would be the best choice for president. And he talked a lot about how, well, Trump will, when we put good ideas in his head, he does good things. But the truth is if you look at who is giving him advice right now, Peter Navarro, Besant, all these people, they're not giving him quality advice. What they're doing is they're allowing him to run roughshod over the market, tank the marketplace. And now we're seeing GDP actually decreasing this quarter. We're seeing consumer confidence lower than it was even during the pandemic, going all the way back to right after the financial collapse of 2009. That's how uncertain the marketplace is right now. And it's not made through an economic calamity or through a pandemic that causes a huge shock to our economy. This was completely a self-owned. This was an own goal by the Trump administration, dinging themselves for this. And now we're all going to pay more for it. When in reality, we need to be embracing free trade. I don't care that, if other countries put tariffs on us, that inhibits their economy. That makes the cost of living more expensive for their citizens. Just because they're shooting their citizens in the foot doesn't mean our government should shoot our citizens in the foot through tariffs, reciprocal or otherwise. And many of these are not even reciprocal. Many of these tariffs are just completely numbers pulled out of Trump's ass based on trade deficits, something he clearly does not understand. The man went to Wharton, but I guess he missed, the classes on trade deficits and how this is all supposed to work. It's not bad sometimes to have trade deficits with someone. I have a trade deficit with my barber. When I go get my haircut, I pay them money for a service. And guess what? They don't ever pay me for a service. I have a trade deficit with them. Is that a bad thing? No, because I've paid for what I want and I've gotten, the service that I paid for. That's fine. That's the free market at work. Now put that on the macroeconomic level. Hey, if we buy more diamonds from Lesotho than they buy stuff from us because they're a very poor country and we have a large trade deficit with them. That's not a reason to enact massive tariffs on the country of Lesotho. But that's what his stupid formula came up with on so-called Liberation Day. And by the way, the media needs to stop calling April 2nd Liberation Day. They need to call it Tariff Day or Tax Day. Well, April 15th is Tax Day. But let's call it Trump's Tariff Day. That's what it is, April 2nd, 2025. It didn't liberate anything except for money from our wallets going to the government to pay off these tariffs. That's what it is. It's paid for by you and me because the companies who are importing goods pay the tariffs and they pass those costs along to us. There is no liberation and Liberation Day at all. Not for any citizens of the United States, not for our businesses, certainly not for our small businesses who right now are sounding the alarm and saying they have weeks or maybe a few months at best to survive under this kind of economic conditions before they go under. How many jobs will be lost because they can't bring in components for their business at an affordable rate, and they'll have to let people go. That will be the reality for thousands and thousands of small businesses across the country, and we will see corresponding job losses. We will see corresponding misery in our economy because of this. And again, completely avoidable. So for that, I would grade Donald Trump's trade policy and his as a regard to trade and our economy a clear F. He is heading us towards a recession. He is ruining our relationship, our trade relationships with neighbors around the world, and is not making the United States a stronger trading partner, a stronger force in the marketplace. It's not demanding more respect. It's inviting ridicule. That's the truth. People are seeing what Donald Trump is doing, and they're laughing at us for how stupid our president is with regards to trade. And trust me, China will be able to last longer than we can because they're already working to get trade relationships within the European Union, within Latin America, with Canada, with Mexico, with basically everybody else we've isolated, which is everyone. Protectionism is terrible for the economy. It will make things more expensive. It will lead to job losses. It will lead to recession. And of course, it's going to lead to a rise in our debt and deficit, either through a drop in revenue because there won't be as many people paying taxes into the system. And of course, he's going to cut taxes without corresponding spending cuts. And what's that going to cause? Inflation. So we're headed for a period of stagflation. That's my prediction in the next couple of years, that this economy will not be growing, but inflation will be going up, something we have not really seen in full effect since the late 1970s. And so for those of us who are too young to have lived through that, ask your parents what it was like living through the Ford and Carter administrations, how great that was. And so for his trade policy, I got to give an F. For his domestic economic policy, he says he wants to cut the budget, but then he supports this continuing resolution bill out of the House that actually keeps the Biden spending levels and keeps the spending going and going. It's ridiculous. He talks out of both sides of his mouth. He does the same with tariffs too. Are the tariffs to level the playing field with trade policy and bring manufacturing back to the United States? Or is it just a negotiating thing that will go away soon? Or is it a revenue generator that will completely replace the income tax? The answer is it's none of those things. It's just a bullshit economic policy that's going to make things more expensive and isolate us around the world. And let me just tell you right now, if you think because he's implementing tariffs that the income tax is going anywhere, I have some beachfront property in Arizona to sell you. That's not going to happen. You're going to get the tariff costs and the income tax because that's how government works. They steal from you and then they find other ways to steal from you and they steal from you some more. Unless you're actually vigilant and supporting politicians, supporting elected officials who actually want to cut government. And those are libertarians. And so Republicans don't have the spine to stand up to them. Democrats want to grow government and they love tariffs too. Donald Trump sounded just like Bernie Sanders today when he was being asked in his cabinet meeting today about empty store shelves. He said, well, there'll be some pain and I guess kids will have to buy $2 instead of $30 and they'll cost a little bit more. Oh, well, it's nothing that we need anyway. Truth is, it is things that we need that are going to be affected. And it's just like when Bernie Sanders said, oh, why do we need to have 30 different types of deodorant on the shelves? We don't need all that. It's economic protectionism. It's communism. It's central planning. It's Mar-a-Lago Marxism. That's what it is. MAGA is not conservative economically, philosophically, in any way, shape, or form. They're disguised. They are like it's like a gold plated. It's not real. It's just plated with a little bit of conservatism, a little bit of social conservatism here, a little bit of Christian nationalism here. But the truth is the economic policy, the trade policy, the governing philosophy of MAGA is more akin to communism than to conservatism, the Reagan conservatism of the 1980s and throughout the 1990s that you saw with like the Newt Gingrich contract for America folks. Those folks are way more philosophically conservative than Donald Trump has ever been. Donald Trump is a big government goon who's found a way to maintain control through this kind of force of strength and personality. And we should reject this because it's going to hit our wallets. It was cute when he was doing this as the host of The Celebrity Apprentice, right? He can be a bloviating asshole when he's just a reality TV show host. But when it comes to my wallet, my dollars, my life, I don't take that. And I think we should stand up to it, certainly before it leads our economy into ruin. That being said, I don't think the Democrats are going to offer a lot of, fantastic economic policy, which is why we need to support the Libertarian Party. I recommend you join the Libertarian Party. Go to lp.org and join right now. Go join your state affiliate, get involved, and make sure we have a strong pro-liberty, pro-free market, anti-tariff message on the ballot in 2026 and beyond for the midterms. We want to make sure that they're seeing consistency, because you're not going to get consistency out of Democrats. They may oppose tariffs now, but once they get in power, they will love economic protectionism, because that is what big government folks do on the left as well as on the right, apparently, these days. So I'm not really thrilled about these first 100 days. I haven't even gotten into the way he treats immigrants. I haven't even gotten to the way he's spit on due process in the Constitution and really violated the rule of law in this country. And the law and order folks, the people who voted because they said law and order was their biggest concern. There's too many criminals in our society. We let them get away with everything. They're totally fine with the removal of things like due process, because it's going against people they don't like right now, namely immigrants. They think, oh, well, the government says they're illegal, so they must be. Who trusts government like this? Would you trust government? Or would you say if you were accused of a crime, you should have your day in court? You should be able to rightfully face the accused, or the accuser rather, as the accused. Due process, something that our Constitution says is a fundamental right of anybody who lives under our jurisdiction. And yet we're abusing that. That should be sounding alarm bells for everyone in the Democratic, Republican Party, Libertarian Party, any party. That should be sounding alarm bells that we're like undoing the very fabric of the rule of law that we have in this country, because we have a strong man who just can't be bothered to actually go out and find criminals, and is instead finding people who have legal green card status, who are on student visas, who speak out against the war in Gaza, and saying things that he doesn't like. They're finding, they're claiming that people have the words MS-13 tattooed on their hands when it's a clear Photoshop. I don't know if he's too stupid to understand that that's a Photoshop, or if he's trying to bullshit the reporter. Either way, it's really concerning. And if he doesn't know that that's a Photoshop, he's far more brain dead than people are giving him credit for. He's at Biden levels of not really there, and that should concern us. And we should stop electing grumpy, old, elderly douchebags to be our president, because we've had now 9 years of it, and we will have 3.5 more if this all goes. If he maintains his office, doesn't get impeached, makes it through his full term. That really, really sucks for most of this country, because most of the country is not angry, aging 70 and 80-year-olds. That doesn't make it feel like we're being represented. Those of us who are struggling to own a home, or raise a family, or find good education for our kids, or have better job prospects, or better healthcare choices. These are the concerns that real Americans are facing in this country. And instead, we're undergoing this war on due process by deporting people without a court date, without any kind of knowing where they're going, what's happening. They try to do it in the dead of night, and they're doing so in a way that has the Supreme Court ruling 9-0 against them. Think about how hard it is to get Clarence Thomas and Alito and Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett and Roberts and Gorsuch to agree with Justices Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor. Like, think about how hard it is to get a 9-0 decision. You have to really be screwing up and really be violating the rule of law to get a 9-0 decision out of the Supreme Court these days. And that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing. And so again, it shouldn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian. This should be concerning for anybody. Because if they're just coming for the immigrants now, and you're like, oh, well, I'm not an illegal immigrant, it'll never happen to me. Think again. He's already floated the idea of deporting homegrowns, in his word, to that prison in El Salvador. You could be next if you say something that this administration doesn't like, and they come up with a BS excuse to disappear you. That should scare the hell out of all of us. That we have a government right now that, without due process, without a court date, has masked government agents violating people's rights, including the rights of American citizens, as we saw recently in Oklahoma City when they terrorized a family because they went to the wrong house to try to find an immigrant. They sent little girls outside in the cold in their underwear, didn't even give them time to put on clothes while they violated their rights. And why is ICE doing this? Because they feel empowered by our president to do it. They feel like they can abuse us because the president is giving them the go-ahead. And that should concern everybody. It's not about immigration. It's about rule of law. It's about following the Constitution. It's about respecting other people's rights so that one day your rights will be respected. And that's the narrative we need to be pushing. This is not about Kilmar Obrego Garcia. This is about his fundamental right to due process. Because if his rights are violated, my rights are violated. Because if one of us is not free and allowed for the government to put themselves, their boot on our neck, all of us are very vulnerable to those same abuses. And to the Democrats out there who are angry that Donald Trump has these powers, has these emergency powers to do this, here's the truth. You empowered this when the NDAAs were signed under Obama. You empowered this when, on a bipartisan basis after 9/11, we empowered the state with all sorts of emergency powers through the Department of Homeland Security, through the War on Terror, through the Patriot Act, through all sorts of other legislation. This created the slippery slope to where we're at right now. And so I want everybody to understand it's not just Donald Trump. This is something that our government has been sliding into for a generation. And it's time for us to wake up and snap out of it. We're only at 100 days of this administration. How many more days will it take before we all rise up together? Not about party and not about partisanship, but stand up for our God-given individual rights of fair due process, of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, of free speech, and the ability to speak out against government when they do wrong without fearing the jackbooted thugs knocking on your door. That is the moment we need to be meeting right now. That's where we're at. And I think people really need to understand what's happening. I see someone saying, I really wish more people were listening to this. Share it, repost it, share it right now, like it. Make sure other people are seeing this, because this is the warning right now we need to be hearing. Because if you don't understand what comes next, if we allow this slide to continue, you are not someone who's paid attention to history. You don't understand, because we've had this happen in Europe in the 20th century. We have seen what happens when fascism rises and people do not rise to the moment to face it. Many more people will become victims if we don't. And so I'm sending the call right now. Again, this is not about immigration. You can want a strong border if you want, but demand that the process that the Constitution prescribes be met for that policy to go forward. Do not skip the line. Do not break the rules when it's convenient for you and your policy now, because the rules will be skipped when it's against you in the future. You have to recognize that the shoe will fall on the other foot. And so for me, the time is now to be loud. The time is now to be organized across parties and to say no more to this. Again, there's one or two things I said Donald Trump did good at the beginning of this. If you're Lynn Ulbricht, Ross Ulbricht's mother, I totally understand why you supported Donald Trump, because you wanted your son free. If you're Ross Ulbricht, I can understand why you're thankful to Donald Trump, because he was put in a position to free you and did so, even though he was also in that position to free you originally and did not do so. He only did it when it was politically convenient for him to try to get votes. And that's wrong, frankly. I would have freed Ross Ulbricht on day one, whether it gained me votes or not, if I were president of the United States. And I would have done it the day that I had been elected, not into my second term 8 years later. And so we need to rise to meet this moment together. Libertarians, I'm speaking to you right now. You need to be able to walk into a crowd of people who are marching, and even if they don't agree with everything you do economically, you need to say, you know what? I don't agree with your big government ways. You're, on the left, you're a Democrat or whatever, but I do agree that we need to be having fairness and the rule of law in this country, that people need to be having due process, and that for us to have true debate and truly be able to disagree with one another in a peaceful manner, like we need in a republic such as ours, we have to insist upon these basic rules of the road. And so I encourage you to get out. Maybe you haven't been an activist before. Let me tell you right now, I've been out in the street with a bullhorn. I've been out and organized. I've been tear gassed and pepper sprayed by my own government for speaking out against their abuses. It takes a little bit of courage and a little bit of time. And I'll tell you right now, we need to muster that. And we need to get out and be organized to fight back against the abuses we're seeing in these first 100 days, because we have hundreds more coming behind it. We have seen in 3 short months the way Donald Trump wants to dismantle the rule of law, the way Donald Trump wants to abuse our system, the way he's not actually cutting government or making it smaller, but actually making it bigger and more involved in our lives and more involved in our privacy and more involved in our business. And we need to stand up against it. And so I'm encouraging you to get involved. As a libertarian, I want you to get involved in the Libertarian Party, but I want you to also get out, touch grass, meet your neighbors, meet your community, and get involved in the response to this at the local grassroots level. If you hear about a protest that's going on in your area, get out there and be involved. Make sure your voice is heard. And you can proudly say, I'm a libertarian. We might not agree on everything, but here's one thing we can agree on. We all deserve our God-given freedom. And so with that, I'm going to rate this entire 100 days as a failure. As a failure, both on Donald Trump's part to run this government effectively, to respect the rule of law, to respect our individual liberty. But it's so far as a failure on us to truly respond to it, because we may have failed to meet this moment in the first 100 days. We cannot continue to fail this moment in the second 100 days and the third and fourth and so on. We have to continue to get more organized, to grow, to be more forceful. And yes, we have to get out there and get ready to vote and mobilize. We cannot allow Donald Trump to maintain control of the government the way he has, abusing people's rights, abusing our liberty. We must insist upon a weakened, decentralized federal government that takes this power out of the hands of Donald Trump. And this is my message to anybody who's maybe a Democrat who's watching, right? I know you're probably not going to vote Libertarian, but here's my message to you. You should not vote for anyone in a primary or a general election who is not absolutely concerned, first and foremost, if they're running for Congress, their first objective should be to take power out of the hands of the president and return it back to Congress where it belongs, the legislature, the power of the purse, the power to declare war, the power to declare emergencies. These should be in the hands of the Congress, not the president of the United States acting as a God king. And so I urge you, if you're a Democrat who might be watching this, again, I know you're probably not going to vote Libertarian or join the Libertarian Party, but you should never vote for a Democrat who's not going to stand up and demand that the Congress take power out of the hands of the president. That is my same message to Republicans. If you're a Republican and you're just a diehard GOPer, you need to recognize right now that your party is being stolen from you by Mar-a-Lago Marxism. You want to get conservative governance back in office, you need to insist on voting for candidates in the primary who will stand up for the rule of law, who will stand up against the abuses of the Constitution, and be a Republican that will actually fight for your liberty. I know that's a rare thing. It seems like only Rand Paul in the Senate, Thomas Massie in the House are left. But you could support more Republicans like them if you are a Republican and you insist on that. Now, I think that the best path forward is to build a true alternative to the two-party system, the Libertarian Party, the only party that has consistently been pro-free trade, pro-individual rights, pro-individual liberty, pro-free speech, anti-war, anti-tariff, anti-abuse, and pro your right to come here, live here, and work here in peace as you see fit, so long as you're not harming someone else. The Live and Let Live Party, the Let's Be Free Together Party. So I urge you, personally to join the Libertarian Party. Go to lp.org and join right now. Make your voice be heard. Go to your state convention and only support leadership that is going to stand up to Donald Trump and not try to partner with him, kowtow to him, or think that the way forward for liberty is through MAGA, because it is not. The only thing that's going to happen through MAGA is economic calamity and failure and more war, more abuse, more death, more violence. That's what we will be seeing from Donald Trump in the future. That's my prediction right now. Let's meet back in, say, 6 months and see how right I am. That being said, we've gone about half an hour. I'm going to look at some of these comments here. Do no harm, take no shit. That should be the headline. That should be the tagline of the Libertarian Party, because that's certainly how I feel. The Republican Party didn't start out as a pro-free trade, anti-war, etc. with Lincoln. Well, they were anti-slavery at least. That's a lot better than some of these people who want to throw folks in gulags these days. Tariffs, they're terrible. I don't support them. Enough said. They're awful. They're going to raise prices and they're bad for you. What can I say? It's a tax on the American people. Tariffs aren't paid by the foreigners; they're paid by us, by our businesses. And let me tell you, I'm really worried about. I'm really worried about the fact that it's going to affect our shipping. I used to work in the shipping industry. When we're seeing cargo ships coming here empty from China, that doesn't just affect China. That affects our truck drivers, our rail workers, our longshoremen, basically everybody down the logistics chain. You're going to start seeing job losses in these great blue-collar, well-paying industries. And that should worry everybody. So, I'm going to go ahead and wish you all a good night. Share this live stream out. Let people know what a libertarian response to the first 100 days of Donald Trump should look like. It should not be going along to getting along. It should be rejecting the authoritarianism, the oligarchy that we're seeing growing in this country. And we should be fighting to support individual liberty and individual rights. And that's what I support. Am I a right libertarian or moderate? I like to think, if you look at the, that's what Luke is asking here. Am I a right libertarian or moderate? If you look at the grid, I am definitely almost at the bottom of on the libertarian scale, and I'm just right of center. So some people would say I'm right. Some people would say I'm a centrist libertarian. Thank you. Young Libertarian 18. Thank you, sir, for inspiring me to stand up. Thank you for standing up. Keep getting involved. Keep checking out libertarianism. And hey, join the Libertarian Party. I don't care if you're a left libertarian, right libertarian, center libertarian. If you oppose the authoritarian state and you believe in more freedom for each and every individual by removing power out of the state, decentralizing power away, and increasing individual sovereignty, bam, you are a libertarian. Join the Libertarian Party. Thank you for getting involved and being inspired as a young person. I'm not sure what happened to a free market economy in the U.S. It must be very unpopular. That's because there is really great marketing on the half of cronyism and crony capitalism, because the true free market is not what we have right now. We have a corporate-controlled capitalistic oligarchy. We need to remove power out of their hands and ultimately have a true free market. And that involves reducing a lot of what government does, because a lot of that is the regulatory state that was created by those very industries that are regulating the competition from ever growing up around them and creating that organic competition and really having a free market actually function the way it's supposed to. But I agree with you. It is unpopular because people have been brainwashed to believe that free markets are bad when it's really the crony capitalism that is bad. So I'm going to let you guys go. Is libertarianism fiscally conservative? Asked Luke. You got a lot of questions. Say yes, we are. We believe that your dollar. We believe that taxation ultimately is theft, and we should reduce it as much as possible. Decentralize programs away from the government and make them more voluntary, so that you can decide what you want to invest your money into. So that being said, we want to keep taxes low, spending even lower, and make sure that we are not adding to our debts and deficits, which in turn creates inflation. So thank you very much for that, you guys. I'm going to let you go. Have a great evening. Love your family. And I do want to end this. I have a good friend, Kyle Pierce, who is a wonderful liberty activist out in the state of Ohio. He had a tragic accident a while back and has been incapacitated medically ever since. We're all praying for his recovery and for his return and getting back into life and getting out of the hospital and recovering. But in the meantime, he has a cause that is very, very close to him called the Ohio Coalition to End Qualified Immunity. If you do want to give any money today, I encourage you to Google the Ohio Coalition to End Qualified Immunity. The Ohio Coalition to End Qualified Immunity. Donate to them today. in honor of a wonderful liberty activist who, unfortunately, due to a car accident, is incapacitated, is medically in the hospital. Our hearts and our prayers go out to you, Kyle. And hopefully, if some folks are watching this, a few dollars can go towards an organization that you have headed for so long and done such great work for. So check that out. I did want to throw that out here at the end of the live stream. Peace, love, and liberty to all of you who have watched this. Again, make sure you share it out. Make sure you like and subscribe to this if you're on YouTube, or if you're on X right now, make sure you're following me. Or if you're if you're on Facebook, make sure you're following me. Share this out to as many people as possible, and make sure as many people can see that the true liberty message in these first 100 days is hell no. We will not accept what Donald Trump is doing. This is a failure of a presidency, and we will respond in kind. Peace, love, and liberty, and have a good night. God bless.